Welcome back to It's All Her, the podcast. I am your host, Jordy Lucas. I'm the founder and editor of It's All Her. I was an actress in a previous life and I'm a mum to a toddler. I've got a lot going on and I have a passion for helping women live simpler, better lives. For the latest in lifestyle and entertainment news, head to itsallher.com. Welcome back for another episode of It's All Her. I hope you've had a fantastic week. Mine was pretty busy and some good news on the health front. I finally got back in with a specialist who is going to help me with my suspected endometriosis. I've been documenting this on my personal Instagram page, so head there if you want to have a read. I have not received a response like this in a while from so many women who experience the same sort of symptoms that I do, that really long, heavy, painful bleeding. And just basically being told by doctors to suck it up, which is not good enough and we shouldn't have to live with it. So come over and join the conversation. I would love to hear your experience. This specialist that I saw yesterday suggested the Marina, which I've posed the question to you all to give me your feedback on that, and I would love for you to give your feedback to me if you have had it. So jump over and send me a message if you had. Very varied feedback, I will say. So I will be compiling all that together and sharing that with you as much as possible, because there is so many there's just so many women suffering through these kind of symptoms, and our mission here is to make your life simpler and better. And I think if we can get some treatment that we need on these issues, then life would definitely be better. Anyway, enough about me. Let's get to this week's guest. Diana Chan is a Malaysian-born Australian cook who won Masterchef in 2017. Now, since then, she's had such an interesting and varied career, so I was really excited to hear all about that and her recipe for success, no pun intended. We hear all about her plans for 2022 and what it would take to get her back in the Masterchef kitchen. Here is my chat with Diana Chan. Diana, thank you so much for joining us this week on the podcast. I'm so excited to hear about your career. We're in almost April now. How has the first sort of quarter of the year been for you?
Crazy. Well, the first, Jordy, thank you so much for having me on. It's a real pleasure to have this chat with you. But yeah, like the first part of the year the first quarter has actually been quite busy. Mm-hmm. I think just getting back into the swing of things. I sort of like changed kind of like what I did with work-wise, like, as most people have throughout COVID. So I was doing a lot of stuff at home, and then with events being back up and running, I'm kind of like doing that as well now. So trying to juggle a lot of the new things happening, and a little bit of travel at the start of the year, and there's more to come as well. So it's been a crazy 3 months already.
Yeah. And I know you're doing a lot of presenting at the Melbourne Food and Wine Festival. How does it feel being back in front of a crowd? I know when I'm out socializing at these sort of events, it kind of feels a bit strange.
I know it is. It takes a little bit of getting used to. Yes, I was there on the weekend, just Saturday that just went, and I had a cooking demo, one of my first live cooking demos since COVID, I think. Yeah, because I've been doing a lot, but always through like Zoom sessions, and presenting on camera. But it was nice to actually have a physical crowd, which was lovely. It was actually really nice to have people there. Oh, I actually did one in Dubai recently.
Oh, wow.
Because I was there for work. So it's great. It's so good to, be a part of such a big event. It's iconic to Melbourne. We had a big lunch yesterday as well with Dave Pint from Burnt Ends at Ambler, and that was amazing. Like lunch turned into dinner. It was a big day.
It feels like the city's finally coming back alive, doesn't it?
Really, and it's actually good to see, like, with even with like Melbourne money and stuff like that, where there's just people in the city every night of the week. Like I was recently in Sydney a couple of weeks ago, and it's not as busy as Melbourne. Like Melbourne's definitely pumping more so than it is.
So let's take it back to your early life. You are Malaysian born. Yes. What was your early life like there, and perhaps some of your aspirations growing up?
Yeah, sure. So, grew up in Malaysia. Mom and dad still live there. So it's kind of sad because I haven't seen them for over 2 years now. So I have to make a trip back soon, as soon as I can.
I'm sure that's been really difficult not to see them.
It is. But like, what with FaceTime and all that kind of stuff, it's all fine. But it's nothing like just being there and, basically just hanging out, like, when you are with family. So I'll do that soon, hopefully, as soon as I get a bit of downtime. It's just really busy with work at the moment. So grew up in Malaysia, studied there, like did, primary school, high school. And then I came over for uni at the age of 18. So
by yourself?
Well, yes. Wow. But my brother and my sister. So it's not uncommon for a lot of, like Southeast Asian families to send their kids away to do like their tertiary education. So generally a lot of people will come over to Australia or UK or America, just to give them a little bit of like exposure into the Western culture. So came over at the age of 18. But growing up in Malaysia itself was, it was awesome. Like I loved it. Like Malaysia itself is such a melting pot of culture. You get Malays, Chinese, Indian. So you got like different cultures all, that assimilate really well together. And it's just the food is amazing. Like I'm not sure if you've tried Malaysian food before, but I'm obviously a massive advocate for Malaysian food. I think it's just it's so colorful and so vibrant because there's just so much to offer. And so that was pretty much my childhood. My aspirations wise, like, never to be a chef. I think, I don't know, I just went through a lot of, I was always I was always a very creative kid growing up. I remember like being really into arts, and I was just always that sort of kid, like always thinking, like creating, like doing different things, and like whether it's arts and craft, I was always one of those kids. So I always knew that I was going to do something quite fun and interesting in life. But being an Asian kid growing up in an Asian family, you're either a doctor, lawyer, engineer, accountant, because if you're not that, then what's the point of living? So I did my degree in accounting and finance, and kind of worked in that space after. But that's why I come from such a different corporate background. But I should have known from the start that I was probably destined to do something a little bit more out there and different. But I took the long road, but I'm here now, and I love it.
So you were working as an analyst in one of the big, like, huge corporations, Deloitte.
Yeah.
Why then did you decide to try out for MasterChef?
It was actually really funny. I was there for like 4.5 years at that point, and I really doing a corporate job, like I would never go back. Safe to say now, having done MasterChef and having carved my career in the food industry in the last 5 years, I can safely say I'm probably never going to go back. I have taken a lot away from, and it has helped me in running my own business. Just that whole, like, I think what you get from working in a corporate environment is the structure. So I am quite a structural person. Like, I mean, I've already got all like my to-do list every day, that kind of stuff. So I think taking a lot away from that, and understanding how to manage your time and working quite methodically, that definitely helped. But essentially I was, I when I moved to Australia, so let's rewind a little bit. When I was a kid, I used to be in the kitchen a lot. Like, at 5 years old, I had to, like, help mom prep food for dinner. So it was
Yeah.
always dinner every night around the dinner table with the whole family, and we would, talk about our day. No TV on, maybe some music, but in the background. But it was always family orientated in every night for dinner. So I kind of like that was instilled in me, like to have dinner with your fam, and that's like a gathering, and it's kind of like that special moment every day that you have. And I also used to prep a lot of the food for dinner, so I think that's where I kind of like started like to understand the fundamentals of cooking. I didn't necessarily get into the kitchen and cook, but I was watching and I was learning as I watched my mom and dad cooked. So naturally, when I came to Australia, I had to cook my own food. Like my brother and my sister were already here, so they were living in Melbourne. They too came here to study and then stayed on. And so like for the first time in my life, I was like, oh my God, I actually have to cook my own food. And I just remembered, like, I was very particular with what I ate, and I didn't want to eat out all the time. So I was like cooking quite healthy. And I was like a massive gym junkie back then. And so I was just like, I started cooking, and I was like, okay, I think I get the hang of this. Like, I kind of understood flavor from like just the childhood memories. And so I was like, I started doing that. And then as I grew older, and like when I started work, after uni, I started working, and I used to have friends and family over, more so friends, to the house for dinner parties. Like, and it kind of resembled my dinners that I had with my family when I was growing up. I loved it. And so I used to cook a lot, and I had leftovers, so I brought it to work. And I would give everyone food. And so my mates were like, Masterchef, like, why don't you get on to do it? And I was like, I don't know. Like, I watched it ever since I moved to Australia. I think it started in 2000. I moved in 2006, and I think it started in 2009. So I was like, okay. So I started watching it, and I was like, okay, cool. This is like, I get it. Like, it's a fun show, like, I'm following it every season. But I don't think I ever had the guts to do it. Everyone kind of like urged me to go on. And my ex-boyfriend at the time actually did my application for me, and he put so much like mayo into my application. I didn't even know I didn't even sound like me anymore. And so it was like 50 pages long. So he did it. And the next minute I get this call, and they say, okay, Diana, we would love to have you come in for an audition. And I was like, oh my God. And the audition was like, I think in 2 days' time. And I was like, oh God, I don't even know what to do. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I just go and just see what it's like. So I went, and it was like a mystery box challenge. So mystery box is basically, you have a box of ingredients, and you have like this pantry, and you can choose, but you have to use the ingredients in the box. So I did something like, I think I did pasta or like a ravioli or something with a filling, like a chicken filling or something. And they loved it. And they were like, okay, cool. So we would like you to come back for the second edition. And I was like, oh my God, I'm not ready. And they were like, what's your signature dish? And I said, I don't know. I don't have one. Like, I cook whatever I want. And they're like, oh, you have a signature dish. So we workshopped that signature dish with the chef that day. And I came back the next day, and I cooked it, and I got through. So the process all up took about like a month. So technically I got into MasterChef just by fluke, like I didn't have any expectations. I think that was the main thing. I just went in just for a bit of fun, and I really didn't know how I was going to go, and I had no idea what I was in for.
So you didn't expect to win?
Oh, absolutely not. I always say there's 24 contestants.
It's huge. That's
how you start out. I don't know how they do it now, but like back when I was doing it, it was like a few hundred people, and then they kind of like cut that down by half, and then half again, and all that kind of stuff. So you start the competition with 24 contestants, and I was one of them. And so I just kind of like, I looked around, I was like, oh God, like I'm going to live. My first thought was like, I'm going to live with these people for the next 7 months. Like, you know what I mean? Like, because it's also a bunch of strangers that you get put in a house together. So we all stay in a house together, which is incredibly hectic. And you don't have a phone, so you're completely. It's also a dry house, so no alcohol. We did sneak in a few, but technically no alcohol, no phone. So it was just essentially it was like food jail, right? So I kind of like did it, and then as I got to like top 10, I was like, I'm actually getting somewhere, like it didn't really hit me until I got to like top 10. And I was like, I started to have a lot of fun with this, and I just, kept quite like calm, and people always said I am like the calm cook, like because a lot of people stress in the kitchen, and I was just like incredibly calm and zen. But once again, I think it was because of like my approach in that I've taken away from work previously, like just being methodical, going through the process, don't stress, like all that kind of stuff. And then when I got to top 5, I looked around, and like obviously there were 4 other contestants, and I was like, I gotta win this. Like I've come this far. It's been 6 months that I've spent in this house. Like it's the home run. Like I gotta do it. So I pushed, and then came out the other end. It's been a whirlwind since. Ever since.
So living with that many people, I'm sure that there was personality clashes, but who have you sort of stayed in touch with? And I'm sure that there was some amazing like friendships and relationships formed from that time.
Absolutely. There's also, I think as a general, consensus, like all of us really got along. Some got along more than others, and we kind of like formed like little cliquey groups. Naturally, I was closest to my roommates, so the 2 girls that I stayed with, Eliza and Carly, and because we formed like this natural bond, like we stayed in the room together, and I think when you share a room with your girlfriends for 7 months, lots of weird and crazy things happen, like your periods start to sync. You do things together.
That phenomena.
You form like this special bond, right? So those 2 girls definitely are the ones that I'm closest with. And then there's some that you're still friendly with, and you're just acquaintances, or we also know each other quite well. So
So the last 5-6 years since winning, what has that looked like for you? I know it's been like jam-packed, busy, crazy, and really successful for you. What have some of the highlights been?
So many. I literally have to put a whole list together, but it's really interesting because I get asked this question a lot. But at the start of like after just coming out of the show, you kind of get thrown into the deep end. You have no idea what you're meant to do. So I kind of at the start I started a restaurant and had this pop-up restaurant called Canteen, and I was there, and I think I did it because I wanted to understand the industry a bit more. So, just understanding how it all worked, and I've never worked in hospitality. So that was like my first job in hospitality and like running that business. And it was great. It did really well, successfully. But I realized very soon after that was not what I wanted to do because it just consumed you. And you can just see, like, go to any restaurant and speak to the owners. They're all drained. All the staff in the kitchen are drained. And, I have so much respect for them because they just, they work so hard. And to be successful in that industry, you really got to, go through the initial few years before you actually make a profit in the business. So, it was something that I would definitely go back and do, not just yet because there's just so much happening. So I did that. So that was obviously, that was definitely a highlight in terms of being able to have done that and experience it and say that I've actually ticked that box, right? And I did a lot of travel. I worked a lot with government and still do. So with the Department of Foreign Affairs, and they sent me everywhere. Like I've done stuff in Dubai, all throughout Asia. They just send me to embassies, and I'll be like a guest chef there, and I'll do an event for them. So that was great. Like, it was a really good experience. Like, once again, in that sort of like moving closer to that like corporate side of things, like more, you're dealing with like delegates and stuff like that. So yeah, so that was cool. Those are definitely highlights, like being able to say that I've done that, and then working on different events, like, with the Grand Prix. Oh, and the other highlight is obviously the dumplings, which are still
I was going to bring up
so,
the dumplings.
Yeah. So I met my this all kind of like happened quite organically. Like, finished MasterChef, I was at this charity event, and I sat at the table where my I met my dumpling manufacturers, and they were like, "Hey, are you keen to come on board?" And like, would you, we kind of met there, and like we started a conversation about, like, I think it was their 40-year anniversary the next year. And I was like, sure, why not? Like, that could just be like another thing that I do on the side. So yeah, I did it, and we brainstormed, and we came up with a few recipes, and we created these line of dumplings, which we sell in Coles and Woolies. And the first year we had no idea how it was going to go. It went well, and then we thought, because you don't know, you're at the mercy of like the big guys, like Coles and Woolies will pull it out anytime.
Yeah.
But they loved it, and they said it sold well. So we continued on for the second and third, and now I think we're into our 5th year. So it's been going really well. We're expanding the range, and yeah, like, it's just crazy because it all kind of happens so organically.
Yeah. And so you touched on before about how your background in sort of corporate and as an analyst has helped you with your entrepreneurial journey. How else do you think that it's benefited you having that background now moving into this work that you're doing and managing yourself as a brand?
Yeah. Absolutely. I think it helps me in so many different facets. Definitely the accounting background with the, you're basically running your own. I'm a self-employed, individual. So I have to manage everything. I have to do the accounts. I have to do the creative side of things. So that definitely has helped a lot. And also, not just that, but I think the whole background in, I think when you work in that space, you do have a lot of networking events. So, now in this space, you also do have a lot of events that you go to, and it's just understanding how to be professional in that sense. So, yeah it definitely has helped me. I think just shaped me rather than it's created the way I behave when I'm put in those circumstances.
Now, I've heard you have an upcoming trip to France. Is that correct?
Yes, I do.
Tell us about that.
So I'm working with Kyla Kirkpatrick from The Real Housewives of Melbourne, and she runs a business. So she runs a business called Emperor Champagne. So she's known as the Champagne Dame. Yeah. And so she runs a business called Emperor Champagne, and they take people on these tours. So it's a small group. So it's about 12 people, and it's quite an exclusive private tour around the Champagne region. So we basically, we'll go there, and we'll meet in Paris for a night or two, and then we'll head to Champagne to explore the region, and we'll go into some of these maisons and houses and meet the winemakers, and basically like eat and drink in Champagne. And so that's happening from 7.
Like my dream.
Sounds amazing, right? I know. So she asked if I wanted to do it, and I was like, hell yeah. So I'm doing a dinner when I'm there. Obviously, I'll try and do as much as I can with the food side of things. So, we'll be wined and dined, but we'll go out as well and go to the markets or to the restaurants over there, and I'll take them on like this food tour as well. So that will be on from the 17th until the 23rd of July.
I don't know too many people that would say no to a trip of champagne and food.
it's pretty good. It'll be a pretty cool experience, and I am so looking forward to it. We still have a few spots available, so if there's anyone listening who want to come along, it's going to be a culinary and sensory experience, eating, drinking throughout Champagne. It'll be amazing.
So there's an upcoming season of Fans versus Faves of MasterChef.
Mm-hmm.
Who is your hot tip to win this season? Obviously, we don't know who the fans are, but out of the faves, who's the ones that are returning?
Oh, I know it's tough, isn't it? I don't know the full list of who's on, but I mean, they're all pretty strong and have all come a long way. I mean, like you get contestants like Julie Goodwin from like the first season, and then you've got the ones that were from the previous, like last season. So it's going to be really tough. But from memory, I think like Billy Mackay from, is it season 7 that she won, or season? I think it was season.
Oh yeah, Billy. Yes, I can't remember.
7. Yeah. Anyway, she was amazing. She'll be a tough one to beat if she kept up her culinary career since the last time she was on. I know Tommy's great. Tommy. He's done really well. He's a good cook. It's a tough one. It's going to be interesting to see. But I would say that you can't underestimate the foodies either, because they're new, they're keen, they're eager, and I think they'll give the faves a run for their money.
Would we ever see you back in the MasterChef kitchen?
Who knows? Maybe. Yeah, like it's something that I would probably consider.
Yeah.
If I was asked, but I would have to seriously consider, because I've just I do love what I do now, and it would have to be quite lucrative to take me away.
I'd have to give you a big fat paycheck to get you back in there.
To take me away from what I do now. So yeah, I mean, who knows? There's always perks doing the show, right? Like you want to build your brand again. But for me, it's like I'm just generally very happy with where I'm at. Like being able to wake up and do something different every day is pretty cool. Yeah, I do. Like I feel very fortunate and very lucky to be in the position that I am in.
So what are some of the future goals for you?
Yeah, so I mean, for me, I do want to get back to doing a bit more media. So TV, I had my show Asia Untitled on SBS Food, which ran for 2 seasons. So, we're still pushing for the 3rd season, obviously with funding. TV is a funny one because nobody really watches TV anymore. But SBS Food is a food channel, so you can always have it in the background, which is great, which is good. I have been asked to do a few different shows, so maybe there is consideration there. But I think I want to keep it quite food travel centric. So I think this whole trip to Champagne will be quite good for me to sort of instill that and do a bit of food and travel again in that space would be great. Yeah, so I do definitely want to get back into TV, and there is talks about doing some different filming stuff. And I've also slowly trying to launch my new homeware range, which hopefully comes. I get some time to actually focus on that. Which is kind of why I'm sort of like moving into the space of working with I've partnered up for the Melbourne Food and Wine Festival with Brossa, so they're a furniture company, and so I'm doing stuff with them. I've done some stuff with Bed Threads. So that kind of like leans itself into that space of, because it's not, for me, it's not just about the food. Like it really is just like a lifestyle for me. So just I have friends over every week for dinners, and it's something I enjoy doing. So I think, having the food and the homeware business together would tie in very nicely into the entertaining space.
It's the dream.
So that's where I kind of see my future, I guess.
Yeah. So at It's All Her, we are all about keeping life simpler and better for women. How do you do that for yourself?
I don't. Oh no, I don't. No, keeping life simpler. I think it's just, maybe for me, it's just I try to take on as much as possible, but sometimes it's also a good reminder to, my outlet is obviously just I do sometimes when I go to the market, I just have my own, I'm in my own zone and my space. So I'm finding time to switch off. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Exercising, like try and get something in every day, whatever it is. It can be a walk, can be, I don't know, like, you know, Pilates. I do PT. So that's like kind of my vent. I go to my trainer and like give him my download on like my whole day and go on a rant. But, you know, I think, being able to switch off and finding that sort of space that you can, you know, whatever it might be, read a book, watch TV, listen to music. I think putting yourself first. And I always also, like, you know, I look after myself, like not just in terms of like fitness, but dressing well, like just doing your nails, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
it makes you feel nice, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Putting some, you know, going out and putting some, just making an effort to make yourself feel good about yourself, I think is very, very important, which so many, I think, women lack and let go of, which is,
Well, Diana, thank you so much for joining us this week on the show. I will link all your socials and also some nice pictures of those dumplings that we can all get our hands on in Coles and Woolies.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of It's All Her. If you have loved this episode, please rate, review and subscribe wherever you listen, and I will be back in your ears next week.